What's going on, guys? It's Frito here for your Overwatch. Blizzard has released today a gameplay trailer for Junker Queen and a blog post going in further depth explaining her abilities, confirming exactly what they are. In today's video, we'll take a look at her playstyle, and then I'll give you our review on how we think she's going to affect gameplay in Overwatch 2. So the most important thing to learn about Junker Queen is that she has a passive called Adrenaline Rush, where she heals from all damage over time effects by wounds. Blizzard seems to be trying to give more uniform names to different status effects in the game now, and wounds is a new one. A lot of her abilities have it, where she causes a bleed effect on you that will deal damage over time, and she will leech life, making her a lot more tanky. Junker Queen deals damage in a few different ways. She has a Scattergun shotgun, which from the looks of it, I suspect might be a slightly less potent version of Roadhog shotgun, mainly because Junker Queen is equipped with more tools to get in, close the distance, stay alive. In many ways, I think she's a more flexible version of Roadhog, and it likely might not be too fair if her shotgun was just straight up better while she does other things. In the gameplay trailer, they did not show ammo amounts or any HUD really, so we'll have to wait until the release of the beta next week to get the actual numbers for these things. But two key numbers to look out for on the Scattergun is how much damage does it do at close range? Do you need to combo her other abilities to secure a kill on a squishy? And how much ammo does it have before you reload? Because Junker Queen is going to be running out into the team fight exposed. Depending on how much downtime she has, that's when she'll have to start to consider when does she have to play around cover and when not. The next ability is Carnage, the name of her big axe, which has a big sweeping swing that wounds all enemies in front of her. It looks like if a Reinhardt hammer could apply a status effect. So getting hit by this is going to be devastating, especially if the enemy team is clumped up, because remember, wounds, you want to ideally stack on multiple enemies, because then you're going to be life-leeching off multiple of them as you damage them over time. I bet we also can expect Carnage to have a big spike of damage as well, so a combo between the axe swing and a shotgun blast. I'd be shocked if it didn't one-hit a squishy, but even if it doesn't, when you start to think how she's going to interact with a lot of characters, if she gets the drop on you, it might feel impossible to kill her, with a big burst of damage on your face and damage over time and life leech. But she doesn't really have much mobility other than a couple tricks up her sleeve. First one is her Jagged Blade, which is her secondary fire. The knife's nickname is Gracie. It, of course, also applies wounds. It seems like every one of her blade type abilities does. And it's best to think of this as a new version of a Roadhog hook. It can pierce through multiple enemies, but it's actually a physical projectile rather than something you have to hit with a direct connection. There's a lot of cool tricks you'll be able to do with this, and as the Jagged Blade hits an enemy, they get pulled closer to the Junker Queen, which of course is going to set them up for her devastating close range attacks. And another option to help her with distant foes, Junker Queen has Commanding Shout, which at the moment increases her personal health by 200 and nearby allies' health by 100, and increasing movement speed by 30%. So this is like a speed boost on a tank. Keep in mind, as far as I know, there is no limits on speed boost stacking. Stacking this with a Lucio speed boost, okay, now we're cooking, because everyone in those two auras would get the benefit of the extra health and double move speed to actually close the distance and rush something down. And teamwork is still a crucial part of your hero's strength in Overwatch 2. So it makes us start to think, which characters will benefit the most from having extra health and speed boost applied on top of them to rush in with Junker Queen? Do you pair her alongside a Reaper and the both of you rush in with super speed and lifesteal? How do you take that out? Last up is her ultimate called Rampage, the big spinny attack, which is her biggest boost of movement. I'm curious to know if Commanding Shout, if used beforehand, will amplify the speed or distance that Rampage launches you forward. That might be a cool combo, but it applies a wound like everything does on Junker Queen's kit pretty much, but more importantly, an anti-heal effect on the enemy. As if the rest of her aggression wasn't potent enough, rushing in with that anti-heal is going to be quite good, because think about it. Anti-heal, as we understand it now, is only in the form factor of a very slow granny character who often has to either be in the back line or is at major risk of death if she gets into position. So while antis are much easier to hit in Overwatch 2, it still often is coming from the front, unless you set up a big flank. And because of that, characters with shields or EAT abilities, the tanks that can block it, have a chance of stopping its carry potential. Well, Junker Queen, with all her life leech, big burst of extra health, speed to go in, well, this is an anti-heal that's going to cleave through your whole team. And there's kind of nothing you can do to stop it, other than maybe your tank stunning her. Because as opposed to anti-heal being a projectile, Junker Queen's attacks are a lot of melees, which really the only thing that stops it is like a Zarya bubble on a teammate. As melees usually go through shields, and you can't defense matrix it, and there's just like not a lot of interactions against them. So that's Junker Queen's playstyle. She's going to be amazing at catching out of position targets and running them over with a furious aggression. With all her lifesteal, if you get caught out by her abilities, she might feel impossible to kill. Does this mean she is a strong Overwatch 2 character? Well, if you've been watching videos on the channel from Beta 1, you would have known that we don't rate a character that a lot of other people rated very highly, which was Orisa. I got the opportunity to be a guest on the Overwatch League, and they asked me to make a bold prediction, and I said I didn't think Orisa would get a second of playtime in the kickoff clash the first tournament. And my reasons for that was that she didn't have any special interactions and was very easy to counter, despite a lot of the players not really knowing what that was yet. Turns out I was wrong. Orisa did get played for about 30 seconds in one match before she was effectively booed off stage and laughed right out of the server. And the reason why I compare Junker Queen to Orisa is that in a very similar way, if your either individual or team targeting is incorrect, both Orisa and Junker Queen can really punish mistakes. Orisa has Fortify, boosting her health and tanking, immune to all manner of crowd control. Junker Queen, similarly, if she lands a lot of wounds, is going to be able to tank a lot of focus fire. So the first inclination you have as a player to target her is going to be punished if you can't disable her or get away from her. If she gets on you, you're dead, is basically what I'm saying. So you shouldn't let that happen. And the answers are going to be similar to Orisa, where you either keep distance from her attacks or attack her team, who she has no defense for. But if you play indecisively and unsure where to position, what to target, and don't go aggressive yourself, well, then you are fresh meat for Junker Queen to run at. And that lesson, I think, is going to be learned pretty hard by players jumping into Beta 2, especially those on console who haven't had a chance to play the game yet. There's a lot of characters that feel that way, like Doomfist, Orisa, Junker Queen. They just get in your face and you're like, what do I do? And the answer is, you should have been doing a lot of other things seconds ago. You have to be proactive in Overwatch 2. You can't sit back and hide for the most part. That's kind of the beautiful thing about Overwatch 2 right now. A lot of these characters that are just sort of like soloists will do just fine. And maybe even as the game comes out with a ranked mode and everything, even if the team comp strategy of a character is weak, there's enough chaos and individual agency in Overwatch 2 that you're gonna be able to run at things with Junker Queen or Orisa or whoever and not have to worry so much about what you are or aren't adding to the team, as long as you just get your frags. The most interesting thing she does for the meta is add an extra speed boost and tankiness to characters that maybe shouldn't have it. An extra 100 health makes Reaper have 350s, Zenyatta 325. And for me, it's not her tankiness or the way she deals damage that is going to be the make or break for how good she is. It's how much value can you get out of that team effect. And maybe there's certain maps where that creates engagement distances for characters that you would normally not be able to play, but now can get in. A character like Cassidy, for example, is very typically surrounded by the brawly team comp of Reinhardt and Mei, because they can reposition, pivot, cover each other. I'm curious if a character like that gets like a double speed boost in, do you just like magnetic grenade a squishy all together? This like hyper rush style, it's a thing I think you'll be able to do at like the average level of play, but in the overall meta logic of the game, I always come back to like, well, how does she stop a sleep dart or an anti-nade? And whereas Zarya has interactions against that, Junker Queen kind of doesn't. I think to remember, Doomfist in the first beta had a concussion type effect on his abilities that slowed the enemy. I thought this was crucial to him being such a high potential pick, and even then it could be argued that he is very boom or bust. Now I think Jeff Goodman and Josh No said they're going to take that concussion effect away, and if they did, I felt like that would probably kill the character and that whole comp. I think an average player thinks the Doomfist value is in him going in and getting kills himself, which sometimes he does, but a lot of the time, it's that concussion effect that helps the team confirm and begin trading out kills. He goes in, debuffs the enemy, gets out, and the DPS often clean up. If Junker Queen's similar to that, well, she just sort of goes in and can't get out. So it's an even more boom or bust type playstyle to me. And you might be thinking, well, yeah, but there's just so much tanking, so much self-heal out of Junker Queen. You know who also has an incredible self-heal ability? Roadhog. Does that feel like enough for him to be a dominant pick? Well, Junker Queen is sort of if Roadhog got Soldier 76 legs. Great, this defenseless tank can run it down mid. A lot of the interaction type abilities I think are gonna shut her down very easily. But at least you have the skill expression in Overwatch 2, despite all my naysaying, to pop off with her. We've seen it with even Orisa, who I think is a terrible pick, and notably has a lot more defense than Junker Queen does. At least Orisa can anchor the objective, and the enemy can be tricked into overemphasizing the objective and feeding their cooldowns into Orisa's defenses. Junker Queen's just gonna get hit by that stuff in the face. I don't think I read anything saying she can block an anti-nade or avoid getting slept. But at the metal ranks, I can definitely see Junker Queen being overwhelming. I think there's quite a few DPS that won't be very good against Junker Queen, but one to look out for will be Echo, who already was like really good at countering Doomfist, even through all his tanking and mobility. Well, against Junker Queen, that finishing beam will help you really reach those DPS breakpoints that's going to outmatch all of her lifesteal, even when she does hit a lot of it. Otherwise, most of countering Junker Queen's going to come from the support category. Obviously, Ana disables devastate her, but also look out for Zen for similar reasons, for breakpoints, but also she just can't stop the orbs coming at her face, right? So if she's ever out in the open, Zen discords her. He alone might be able to basically snipe her from distance. So safe to say, I think Junker Queen's going to require a crafty playstyle and a very specific type of map. Like, I think the more surprise flanks there are, so especially on the push modes, Junker Queen's going to look better because she really just needs to get in and trade some kills because she doesn't have a big flexible teamwork ability that's going to help sustain the fight. She just doesn't do that at all. And because a lot of tanks do, if you play a Zarya, Winston, Reinhardt, that kind of tank, and parry back and avoid the insta shotgun run you down death, well, you're going to look a lot stronger later on in the fight. She, similar to the Doomfist comps, kind of need to get a pick really quick because their late fight sustain just isn't there. As you can tell, guys, I'm really excited to talk about Overwatch 2 metagame because there is quite a lot there, quite a lot more to learn, and I think a lot more complexity than people originally thought. If you want to keep up to date with our future videos covering Overwatch 2 in depth, be sure to click the subscribe button and the bell icon to actually get notified when our new videos come out. They can be sent directly to your cell phone. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave it a like. I've been Frito for your Overwatch. We'll see you guys next time.